Hi everyone, welcome to episode 5 of my Knitting Through the 1800s series, in which I work my way through knitting patterns of the 1800s, one decade at a time. If you're new here, hi, I'm Tessa, and I like historical knitting, well, mainly vintage knitting, but I've been dipping my toes into historical knitting for a while. Before this series I actually did knitting through the 1900s, so we're kind of slowly working our way back through history. And we already have 4 projects done. They are right here. They have all been interesting in their own way, I guess. Yeah, it's been a journey, but I knew going into this that Victorian knitting patterns are not the easiest for a modern knitter because they're very vague. There's a lot of implied knitting knowledge. So I struggled at some point, but every decade I learn some more, so we're just going to keep going. We're doing the 1850s now, and for this one I decided to do something a little bit different. I've done so far a vest, kneecaps, a bodice and a Sonntag or bosom friend, all kind of clothing items on their own. I don't think this makes a lot of sense, but if I tell you what we're going to do, it will make more sense, because this time I went with a kind of addition to clothing, I guess, because I will be making a lacy collar. Now, I have something in mind that I want to attach it to, but it's currently in my summer wardrobe, and my summer wardrobe is still in storage, but I'm going to take it out of storage this weekend, so I will show you what my plan is once I've got the item of clothing out of storage. But yeah, like I said, we are making a lacy collar. Mainly because I struggled with the 50s. I couldn't really find a lot of patterns that I liked. And there were a lot of patterns that I was considering, but they were dressing gown size patterns in fingering weight yarn. And that's just not going to happen in the amount of time that I have. So I went with something a little bit different. Now, one lace collar is not going to be that much, so I decided to also make bracelets. Because why not? So they're going to be matching bracelets. There are 2 patterns for bracelets in this book, and I'm going to just make those. Speaking of the book, these patterns are all from the Victoria knitting book. When I was researching, I found that most of the pattern books all have the same names. It's just The Art of Knitting a million times, or it's something like this where it's the Victoria knitting book. I've seen multiple of those, or just the knitting book. They were not very creative with their book titles, but the most important thing is the pattern itself. So I've printed the patterns out on a piece of paper because I like paper. I will say with this pattern there are a lot of instructions. So it's not just a 5-sentence pattern where you just have to figure out most of it yourself. It's actually written out each row in a total of, what is it, 33 rows. So that's pretty good. Now what I'm going to do, because I have my yarn. Now, with these old knitting patterns, you have to figure out the yarn yourself. There are really no indications to what yarn you're supposed to use. They didn't use the yarn weights that we use now. There's no gauge whatsoever, so I had to just figure something out. And I figured if we're doing lace collars, we're going to need pretty thin yarn. So in my stash, I had this Scheepjes Maxi Sweet Treat, which is a 100% cotton yarn. It's incredibly thin. I have used this before to make a lace edge on my, I think it was on my chemise. Back then I actually bleached it because I didn't want it to be bright blue, but I think this time I'm sticking with the blue. Now I may change my mind. If I decide I want it to be a different color, I can just bleach it once it's done and then dye it, maybe? But I don't mind this blue, I kind of like it, and I like blue in general. So I think it will just stay blue. Now, the recommended needle size for this is 1.5. I don't have 1.5 in straight needles. Do I even have 1.5 in TPNs or circular? I don't think I do, because I don't think any sane person would willingly knit a lot of stuff on needles smaller than 2mm. But I have 2mm, so I'm using my 2mm needles, and because I have no idea what the gauge is or something like that, or even how big the collar is going to be if you follow the pattern with the yarn they suggest, if that makes sense, I need to do some testing, because the collar is made up of a pattern of 36 stitches that's just repeated. So I figured if I now just knit one pattern repeat, so just 36 stitches, then I can measure how wide that is, and then I can figure out how big I want it to actually be. and how many stitches I need to cast on for that. So we're changing it up a little bit. I'm starting with kind of a gauge swatch. I guess technically it is a gauge swatch before I know what I actually need to do. So having said that, I just want to start. Like I said, I'm going to use my teeny tiny yarn and my teeny tiny needles, and I'm going to cast on 36 stitches and just make one pattern repeat. Which is also good, because if I find out that I'm having trouble with any of the instructions, I can troubleshoot it now before I start to work on the real thing. So it's a win-win. Let's start. So I finished the swatch, and I don't know what happened. It doesn't really look like the illustration that comes with the pattern. The bottom row is completely different, and my battery is about to die. Isn't that fun? We will be right back. Okay, we are back with a new battery. Anyway, like I was saying, the bottom edge looks different. I don't know what I did wrong, but honestly, I don't mind it like this. I think it looks cute anyway. Now, I measured it, and because this is going to be the top edge, and that's 5 centimeters. Now, for the actual item of clothing I'm going to make this for, I have this blue linen dress. And I want to add it to the actual color of this. So I want to add it along the edge here, and I measured it, and all the way around is 50 centimeters. I think that looks adorable. Okay, so 50 centimeters, this is 5, so I need to make 10 pattern repeats. One pattern repeat is 36 stitches, so, I mean, you don't need to be a math genius to figure this out. I need 360 stitches, which is a lot, but let me show you. This is what 360 stitches on a single straight needle looks like. I hope it's 360. There are markers for each 100, but yeah, it's I may have miscounted at some point. But the first thing I need to do anyway is work one knit row. So I'm going to just use that row to recount, and I want to add a stitch marker after every 36 stitches, so every pattern repeat, just to keep it organized like that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I also want to say this earlier. I forgot. I didn't really have issues with this. There were no difficulties at all, just that it looks different. I don't know, maybe I did something wrong, but I think I followed the pattern closely. But no big issues, that's good. Now let's scale it up and start working on these 360 stitches. Okay, I was just sitting here, and first things first, I finished the first row of knit stitches, and I divided the whole thing into 10 sections of 36 stitches, so this is ready to go. And I actually did cast on the right amount of stitches, I didn't make a mistake there, so that was fun. Then I was going through the pattern again, because I just wanted to visualize the whole thing before I continued, just to make sure that what I was doing was right. So I've been working on a little Excel chart, and I think I already found out where I went wrong on the test swatch, which is actually the very first row. Because the first row is knit one, make one, knit two together, make one, knit one, and repeat. I have a feeling that on the test swatch, I didn't do 2 knit two togethers next to each other, I think. Then there's one row where I'm 100% certain I went wrong, which is the 10th row, which is kind of the one where the bottom edge stops and you start working on this next part, if that makes sense. Because there it says knit one, knit two together, 14 times, knit one and repeat. Now with these kind of patterns, it's sometimes difficult to know what exactly you need to repeat. Sometimes they have asterisks, but this one, no. So I think in the original swatch, I read it as knit one and then repeat the knit two together instruction. So just knit two together 14 times. But after doing the little testing on my Excel sheet, I'm pretty sure that I need to repeat the combination of knit one plus knit two together 14 times. Then knit one and then do that again. So a couple of things where I went wrong, which may explain why it doesn't look the same as the pattern illustration. But now I think I know what I'm doing. I'm not going to use this chart because this was just to make sure that it even makes sense. I know sometimes I like to just do this with all the patterns just to make sure that I understand the pattern fully. I'm going to continue just working with these written instructions now that I know how to actually read them. So yeah, now I'm going to spend quite a lot of time probably working on all of these 360 stitches. It's getting kind of insane on this needle. Oh god, okay. I hope that when it gets longer it won't be as twisty anymore. Now I'm at row number 3 and I remember in the swatch this being the most annoying one because I now need to knit one, make one, knit two, then cast on 5, knit two, make one, knit one, repeat. So I need to do, for each pattern repeat, I need to cast on 5 stitches 7 times. Considering that I have 10 pattern repeats, that's 70 times in total. And I remember on the original swatch that this was kind of the row where I started to question my decision to make this one because it was so annoying and it took forever. Now, times 10, I think I'm going to be regretting my decision again. But this is the most annoying row and then the rest is pretty okay. So knit one, make one, knit two. Now I need to cast on 5 stitches. So what I've been doing in the swatch, let me bring you in closer, because I was struggling with just kind of getting in my own way. So I've been folding this needle over and then just doing a basic cast on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get the needle back and then I can go on my merry way, or maybe not so merry, I don't know. Knit 2, make 1, knit 1. And then I need to do that 10,000 times. And then you kind of get a little hole right here. Okay, maybe this is not the most annoying row. I think the next one is more annoying because it's kind of a struggle to knit in these little cast on stitches. But hey, it's going to be okay. I'm going to get myself a cup of tea, put on a nice, I don't know, a show or movie, I don't know yet. Maybe watch some YouTube and just get to work. So after that row where I had to cast on all those stitches, I actually had to add an extra needle because all of the stitches didn't fit on my needle anymore. So I added 1 DPN and just kind of worked the last, I think, 2 pattern repeats separately on the needle. Well, not separately, but I had a really not so fun construction going on with 3 needles just to make it work. But luckily, after a couple of more rows, I was able to fit everything on 1 needle again and I could get rid of the DPN. And that was a relief for sure. We have this. It's difficult to see because their stitches are all scrunched up on the needle to make sure everything fits on there. But we have this, and I'm now ready to move on to the next part, because I kind of see this thing as having two separate sections. We have the little bottom ruffle edge thingy, if that makes sense. And then we have this part with the lacy bits. And that's what we're going to do now. I'm hoping I did everything right this time. I will say the bottom edge still looks almost exactly the same, so I'm not sure if the mistake I made on the first row made that much of a difference. I don't know. We'll see. It's now going to be way more enjoyable now that everything is on one needle again. So I'm going to keep going and work this lacy bit. I was about to say, and then we're almost done, but this is going to take forever because every time I work one row, it takes me about 30 minutes or an hour, depending on how complicated the row is. Now, one positive of this section we're going to work now is that every back row is going to be worked plain. Now I'm always a little bit confused with these older knitting patterns, because when they say plain and it's the back row, I wonder, do they mean stockinette? So when it's the back row, you're supposed to purl everything, which is what I did on the swatch. Or do they want you to knit everything? Because otherwise they maybe would have said purl all the back rows. The thing is that I like how it's on the swatch, because doing it that way, the lacy bit will all be knit stitches. So I think I'm going to keep doing that. So we're going to work a row of pattern and then a purl row, and then keep going until we are done. So yeah, I'm going to work on this for a couple more hours, and then at some point we'll get to the point where I just have to do, I believe, 4 rows of stockinette. So that's going to be easy, and then we can cast off and we will have a collar done, probably. Let's see how long this is going to take. So here it is, well, kind of almost done. At this point I still need to cast off, but after I've done that we have the finished collar here. I then decided to just block it really quickly because it's lace, and lace just looks better when it's blocked. So I let it soak in some warm water for a while. Put it in a towel, got rid of most of the water, and then just placed it on my blocking mats and inserted a bunch of pins to help the lace pattern really come to life. So while that is blocking, I want to start on the bracelets, and I've decided to make both bracelets because it shouldn't really be that much work. I also have more than enough yarn left. I have this one, and this one I haven't even touched yet, so why not? And both bracelets just start with 3 stitches and then just work the pattern for however long it needs to be. The first one actually needs to be long enough that it can go around the wrist twice. And it does say having an even number of the broad and narrow patterns. I haven't really read through it too much, but hopefully it will make sense. Yeah, and then it needs to be folded in half and braided together, kind of like a rope. Should be interesting. And then the second one, same idea. We'll see. I'm just going to start working on the first one. It's a simple pattern, just a fun little extra project, I guess. So let's make some bracelets. So here it is. It's now long enough to go around my wrist twice. So I just cast off the 3 stitches I had remaining at the end. Here we are. Now I need to twist it up into kind of a rope. Then I'm going to sew the ends together. Then I need to figure out something for a closure kind of thing, which I don't necessarily have, but I think I may have a plan. I need to do some testing before that though. So first I'm just going to twist this into a rope. So I decided to just pin it to my sofa. And now I'm going to twist it. And then at some point, if I fold it double, it should just kind of, I think at this point, if I now let go, it should, yeah, twist together like that. Lovely. So I'm just going to join the ends and then I'm going to find a closure. Okay, so I have a plan for the closure because I have this. This is just a necklace. I have a bunch of these because I used to sell jewelry. But if I just take the little clasp thingy and the ring on the other side, if I just take that off the necklace, I can attach it to the bracelet. The way I used to do this was just with 2 pairs of tweezers. If I just take this and just move it like that, I can take off the necklace like that. And I'm also immediately going to attach this. So if I just kind of shove it in there, easier said than done. Anyway, like that. And just close it. Then I have one attached. Then I need to remove the chain of the necklace from the other side. There we go. And attach, I need to weave this in, but for now I'm just going to do this really quick. Attach it to the other end like that, and then I can close this. And we have a bracelet. Wonderful. So I'm just going to finish these ends and then the bracelet is done and we can get back to the color. The color is done blocking and I think it looks amazing. So we can now work on the very, very last steps of this whole video, I guess. And that's sewing the color to the neckline of this dress. Because then it will look a little something like this. I'm excited. So, got some somewhat matching thread. And I've got my needles and yeah, I'm just going to sew it on really quickly and then we can go to the reveal and see what the actual color looks like on the dress in combination with the bracelet. I'm very excited. Let's get this finished. So there we have it. The collar is done, the bracelet is done. I actually ended up only making one bracelet. I was kind of running out of time on my self-imposed deadline, but it's okay. One bracelet is fine. I technically didn't really need to put a closure in because I can just take it off like that. It's fine. But yeah, the color, I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I think it really goes with this dress. I really like the colors together, and it kind of elevates this dress. I've had this dress for a while. I've made it years ago, and it's kind of basic, which is okay, but I found out a while ago that I have a lot of these dresses that are kind of exactly the same. These kind of blue linen dresses, so it's nice to kind of shush it up a little bit, I guess. It adds a fun little detail. I'm just thinking back, did I have any big issues? I don't think I did. I think this has been the smoothest episode we've had so far. I mean, it did help that I made a little swatch because that way I could troubleshoot early on. But I had no big issues while working on the main collar. I had no issues working on the bracelet. And I actually really enjoyed it. It was fun to do some like really nice detailed lace work. So very... Why do I always do that? In case you haven't noticed, I'm hypermobile. Anyway, very successful episode in my opinion. I'm very happy with the result, and I'm now excited to move on to the next decade, the 1840s, which is something different than what we've done so far, so should be fun. Anyway, for now I'm just going to leave you with my Hexie Puff update. I will need to make Hexie Puffs first though. Maybe there won't be an Hexie Puff update. We'll see. But for now, thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe so you don't miss out on the rest of this series. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.